Some women walk into their homes at the end of a long day and feel immediate calm. No visual noise, no surfaces demanding attention, no guilt waiting in every corner. Other women walk into the same size home, similarly furnished, and feel their shoulders rise toward their ears before they have even removed their shoes. I am Keiko Nakamura. I am 72 years old, and I have spent decades studying why that difference exists. It is not personality. It is not talent. It is not available time. It is 10 specific habits, practiced consistently, that separate these two groups of women completely. I have watched women transform chronically chaotic homes using exactly what I am about to share, not through exhausting weekend cleaning marathons, through small, precise daily behaviors that eventually run on their own. We are moving through all 10 quickly. Pay attention. Habit 1, they decide immediately. Organized women make decisions about objects the moment they encounter them. Disorganized women postpone decisions constantly, and postponed decisions are the singular root cause of most household mess. Watch what happens in a disorganized home. Mail arrives. It lands on the counter because processing it requires a decision, and a decision requires energy. Clothes come off in the evening. They land on the chair because returning them to the closet requires deciding whether they are clean enough to rehang. Shopping bags are unpacked partially. The remainder sits on the floor because finishing requires deciding where remaining items belong. Every pile in your home is a collection of postponed decisions. Every cluttered surface is decision debt accumulating interest. Organized women pay their decision debt immediately. Mail is sorted the moment it enters the house. 3 categories only: action required, filing required, recycling. Clothes are assessed the moment they come off, clean enough to rehang or into the hamper. Shopping is unpacked completely before anything else happens. The decisions themselves are not difficult. It is the habit of making them immediately rather than later that requires building. Practice this for 1 week with a single category of objects. Choose mail or clothing or dishes. Make every decision immediately for 7 days in that one category. The habit will begin forming, then expand it. Postponed decisions cost you far more time and energy than immediate ones. A decision made now takes 10 seconds. The same decision made after it has joined a pile takes 10 minutes of excavation, guilt processing, and reevaluation before you even address it. Habit 2. They design their homes around human behavior, not ideal behavior. This is the habit most organizational advice ignores entirely, and it is among the most powerful. Organized women are honest about how they and their families actually behave, and they design their systems accordingly. Disorganized women design systems for how they wish they behaved, and then feel like failures when reality differs. Here is a practical example. If every person in your household consistently drops their bag in the same spot near the entrance, that spot is telling you something. It is telling you that this location makes logical sense to the human bodies living in your home. The organized woman installs a hook or places a basket precisely at that spot. The disorganized woman continues telling everyone to stop dropping their bags there, failing continuously and generating daily low-grade conflict. Look at where mess consistently accumulates in your home. These are not random locations. They are locations where your current system fails to meet actual human behavior. Shoes pile at the entrance because there is no system there that is easier than dropping them. Objects accumulate on the kitchen counter because it is the first flat surface encountered when entering from outside. For each chronic accumulation zone in your home, ask one question: what system, placed exactly here, would make the correct behavior easier than the incorrect behavior? Then build that system precisely there, not where it would look better or where it ideally should be, but where people actually are when they need it. Organized homes are engineered around reality. They succeed because they do not require anyone to override their natural instincts. They make the right behavior the path of least resistance. Habit 3. They maintain non-negotiable morning and evening bookends. Organized women protect two specific windows of time with near religious consistency. The first 10 minutes of their morning and the last 15 minutes of their evening are dedicated to home maintenance without exception and without negotiation. The morning bookend is brief and focused. Bed made before leaving the bedroom. Bathroom surfaces wiped after morning routine. Breakfast dishes dealt with before leaving the kitchen. These three actions take under 10 minutes combined and ensure the home begins each day in a neutral, ordered state. The evening bookend is slightly longer and more comprehensive. A single walk through the main living areas, returning every displaced object to its designated home. Not cleaning, resetting. The distinction is important. Cleaning addresses dirt. Resetting addresses displacement. Both are necessary, but resetting must happen daily, while cleaning can occur on schedule. The psychological function of these bookends is as significant as the practical function. Beginning your day in an ordered home tells your nervous system that you are in control of your environment. Ending your day in a reset home means you sleep without the low-level background processing of awareness that disorder is waiting for you. Women who skip these bookends tend to experience a gradual escalation of domestic entropy throughout the week until the weekend requires hours of recovery cleaning. Women who maintain both bookends consistently find that their homes never deteriorate far enough to require recovery. Maintenance replaces rescue permanently. Habit 4. They never leave a room. Empty-handed. This habit is simple enough to sound trivial. It is not trivial. Practiced consistently, it fundamentally changes the rate at which objects migrate to wrong locations throughout your home. The rule is precisely what it sounds like. When you leave any room, you take with you at least one item that does not belong in that room and deposit it correctly in the room where it does belong. The evening glass from the living room goes to the kitchen as you pass through. The book borrowed from another room returns with you when you leave. The shoes near the sofa travel back to the entrance as you walk past. No item requires a special trip. No task is added to your day. Objects simply return to their correct locations as a byproduct of your normal movement through your home. Over the course of a day, dozens of objects are passively relocated correctly that would otherwise have remained displaced and accumulated into visible clutter. Organized women do this automatically, without conscious thought, because the habit has been practiced long enough to become invisible. It began as a deliberate choice. Eventually, it became simply how they move through their homes. You will experience the same progression if you practice it consistently. Habit 5. They have a defined relationship. With paper, paper is the material that most reliably defeats otherwise organized women. It enters homes in enormous volume. It lacks obvious storage logic. It carries emotional weight, and it reproduces on surfaces with alarming speed. Organized women have developed a clear, defined, non-negotiable system for paper that removes all ambiguity about what happens to every piece that enters their home. The system has 3 and only 3 categories. Action, meaning this paper requires something from me within the next week and lives in a single designated tray until that action is complete. Archive, meaning this paper must be retained and lives in a labeled folder in a filing system. Recycling, meaning everything else, which represents the overwhelming majority of paper that enters most homes. The critical behavior is processing paper to its correct category the moment it arrives. Not placing it on the counter to be sorted later, sorting it immediately at the point of entry into one of 3 destinations. Organized women also conduct a quarterly paper audit removing from archive files anything that is no longer legally or practically necessary. Tax documents older than required retention periods. Manuals for appliances no longer owned. Medical records superseded by more recent ones. Paper that remains in your home beyond its useful life is clutter wearing a disguise of responsibility. Build your 3-category paper system this week. Place the action tray, archive folders, and a recycling bin at the precise location where mail and paper enter your home. Then sort every piece of paper immediately at that location. The habit will feel deliberate for approximately 2 weeks and automatic after that. Habit 6. They practice conscious acquisition. Organized women are as deliberate about what enters their homes as they are about maintaining what is already there. They understand that every object acquired is a commitment of space, of maintenance time, and of future decision-making energy when the object eventually needs to be relocated or released. Before any non-essential object enters their home, organized women ask 3 questions. Does this have a designated home ready for it right now? Does it replace something that will leave, or does it add to existing quantity? Will maintaining it, cleaning it, storing it, be worth the value it provides? These questions are not obstacles to enjoyment or acquisition. They are a filter that ensures only genuinely useful or genuinely meaningful objects occupy space in their homes. The result is a home containing fewer objects that each carry more value, rather than many objects of diminishing individual significance. The one-in, one-out principle operates automatically in truly organized homes. A new kitchen tool enters. An older, less useful one leaves. A new item of clothing is purchased. A worn or ill-fitting one is donated. The total quantity of possessions remains relatively stable because additions are matched by releases. Begin practicing conscious acquisition by installing a 48-hour delay on any non-essential purchase. Note the item and wait 2 days. Most impulse acquisitions reveal themselves as unnecessary within that window. Those that remain genuinely desirable after 48 hours are far more likely to earn their place in your home. Habit 7. They involve everyone using clear, visual systems, organized. Women do not maintain their homes alone through superior effort. They build systems clear enough that every person in their household can participate without instruction, reminders, or supervision. The key word is visual. Systems that exist only in the primary organizer's mind require that person to be present and available for the system to function. Systems that are visually apparent function independently of any individual. Labels are the most straightforward implementation of this principle, not elaborate decorative labels. Simple, clear, unambiguous labels that communicate exactly where each category of object belongs. Cabinet shelves labeled by category, storage boxes labeled by contents, drawer organizers that physically prevent incorrect storage through their geometry. When a visual system is well designed, the correct behavior becomes more obvious than the incorrect behavior. Putting the scissors back in the labeled scissors section of the drawer is easier than putting them elsewhere, because elsewhere requires overriding a clear visual cue. The system works with human behavior rather than against it. Organized women also involve family members in designing these systems rather than imposing them. A system that a child helped name and design is a system that child feels responsible for maintaining. Participation creates ownership, and ownership creates consistency without enforcement. Habit 8. They respect the specific function of every space. Every room in an organized home has a defined primary function, and organized women protect that function by preventing objects associated with other functions from permanently migrating there. Bedrooms are for rest and personal care. When work documents, exercise equipment, or hobby materials colonize the bedroom, the space loses its psychological association with rest. The bedroom that contains everything becomes associated with everything, which means it is associated with nothing restful in particular. Sleep quality frequently suffers as a direct consequence. Living areas are for living, meaning relaxed family time and comfortable hosting. When they accumulate office overflow, bedroom items, and kitchen materials, they become visually and functionally incoherent. No activity feels fully comfortable in a space that signals multiple competing functions simultaneously. Organized women return objects to their functional homerooms as a matter of routine rather than periodic effort. A book read in the bedroom returns to the study. A coffee cup migrated to the bedroom returns to the kitchen. The function of each space is actively protected through daily small actions rather than occasional large corrections. Assess your rooms honestly. List the primary function of each. Then identify every object currently residing in each room that contradicts that function. Begin returning those objects to their correct functional spaces. The rooms will immediately feel more coherent, more restful, and more useful for their intended purpose. Habit 9. They conduct weekly evaluations without sentimentality. Once weekly, organized women walk through their homes with the specific purpose of identifying what is not working in their systems. Not cleaning, evaluating. Where did objects consistently end up in the wrong location this week? That information reveals a system failure, not a personal failure. Either the designated home for those objects is illogical given how they are used, or the system lacks a visual cue strong enough to guide correct behavior, or the correct behavior is somehow harder than the incorrect behavior. Each of these failures has a structural solution: a relocated designated home, a clearer label, a repositioned container. The weekly evaluation identifies failures, and the organized woman adjusts the system rather than redoubling personal effort to overcome a structural problem. This evaluation also addresses accumulation. What has entered the home this week that does not yet have a designated home? What has outlived its usefulness and should be released? Organized homes are not static. They are living systems that require regular calibration to remain functional as life evolves. 1 hour once weekly. Walk every room. Note what is working and what is not. Adjust accordingly. This hour prevents the gradual system decay that eventually requires days of recovery organization. It is the single most efficient investment of time available for maintaining a genuinely organized home. Habit 10. They have accepted that maintenance is permanent. This is the habit that underlies all others, and it is the one that most fundamentally separates organized women from those who organize periodically and then feel defeated when order deteriorates again. Organized women have accepted genuinely and without resentment that maintaining a home is a permanent, ongoing practice, not a project with a completion date, not a problem to be solved once. A practice, like physical health or any relationship, that requires consistent tending indefinitely. This acceptance changes everything about how they approach domestic maintenance. They do not feel defeated when the kitchen needs wiping again 4 hours after they wiped it. They do not feel resentful when laundry reappears after being completely cleared. These are not signs that their previous efforts failed. They are simply the natural behavior of a lived-in home occupied by human beings. Women who have not made this acceptance tend to approach home organization as a war to be won. They fight hard, achieve temporary order, feel the order inevitably deteriorate, and experience each deterioration as evidence that they are losing. The cycle is exhausting and produces chronic feelings of domestic inadequacy. Organized women experience the same deterioration, but interpret it entirely differently. Maintenance is simply today's portion of an ongoing practice. Tomorrow will have its own portion. This is not a burden. It is simply the nature of maintaining a home, accepted without drama and addressed without crisis. When you internalize this acceptance, the individual daily habits become lighter. You are not fighting a battle. You are tending something you value. The difference in emotional experience is considerable, and the difference in sustainable long-term consistency is even more so. What these 10 habits share: Look at these habits collectively, and one truth becomes apparent. Organized women do not have more time, more energy, or more natural inclination toward tidiness than anyone else. They have built systems that require less of all three. Their homes stay organized, not because they work harder than you, but because they have eliminated the conditions that create and sustain disorder. They make decisions immediately rather than accumulating them. They design systems for real behavior rather than ideal behavior. They maintain consistently rather than recovering periodically. Every one of these habits began as a deliberate, conscious choice that eventually became automatic through repetition. None of them were natural from the beginning. All of them are available to you. The home you want to live in is built from these 10 habits practiced daily, not perfectly, consistently. That distinction, practiced imperfectly every day rather than perfectly occasionally, is the entire difference between the home you have and the home you want.